Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ink and Bourbon. I'm Patrick Leclerc. Today we're going to talk a little bit about sword fighting. And if you saw the title of this video, it's a little provocative, a little clickbaity on purpose. Never trust anyone over 5'8". This is advice for short fencers. I guess you could call it a reaction video, but it's not really a reaction to any specific video. It's a reaction to a lot of advice that's been given out by a lot of fencers, a lot of very good fencers, to the question of, what weapon should a shorter fencer choose? You sometimes see this with regards to competitive fighting. You sometimes see it with regards to writers or people in role playing talking about a fantasy race. But what should a shorter person, shorter species use? You see a lot in what weapon should women use to fight. And lots of people have given answers, and a lot of them are really good sword fighters, but they're almost invariably not short and not women. I'm really short, and I'm going to tell you where they've gone very wrong with their advice, and what you should look at. One of the very common pieces of advice that is given to shorter people. All right, start off. I'm 5'3". I fenced since college. I achieved national ratings in sports saber back in the 80s when I was in college. I fenced SCA, cut and thrust, rapier. I fenced some HEMA stuff. And in addition to that, I've done a little bit of martial arts stuff. I've done some other fighting stuff. I've always been one of the shortest people in the room. And I've learned how to be competitive. So I'm going to tell you stuff that works for a short fencer. One of the things that you're going to have to learn to live with is you're going to be at a reach disadvantage. And one of the pieces of advice that I see often from taller people is that you should try to reduce that reach disadvantage. And a lot of them will point you to pick longer weapons. And I'm sure it's well intentioned. It's a terrible idea. Reach matters. It definitely matters. It definitely helps. It's always going to be a slight advantage, but it's something you're going to have to learn to live without. And you can do quite well if you understand that and you take it for what it is. So here's why get a longer weapon is bad advice. First of all, you're going to have a shorter arm span than a tall person, so you're losing a little bit of reach there. And you're going to have, since you've got shorter legs, you have a shorter lunge than the average tall person. So you're going to lose some there. To try to make that up by picking a longer weapon, it's tough because you're trying to make up a significant amount. And it really doesn't work because the taller person can just pick up a longer weapon that's the same as yours. And if you're talking about sport, most sports have regulations on how long a weapon can be. If you're talking about like Olympic style fencing, you can't just get a longer foil. You 35 inches that's all there is. You can't get a 40-inch foil to make up the difference. So that's against the rules, first of all. And if we're talking about not regulated setting, if you're in a HEMA club where they don't measure swords to that point, or if you're talking about real world combat, or you're writing a fictional story, if I can get a sword that's 6 inches longer, there's no reason that my taller opponent can't. So that's not really good. The other thing is, a weapon should be proportional to you. This is a fairly short saber. This is a historical saber. This is my favorite historical sword that I own for purposes of how it moves in my hand, for how it works to me, for how it's sized. This has got a blade of about 28 inches, which is short, but it's absolutely perfect for me. Longer weapons, the longer you make the weapon, the further out it bounces from the guard, and proportional to you and your amount of strength, that's going to make it more tip heavy. And you want something that's going to be balanced for you, weighted for you. The other thing is, if I'm making a low cut or a low parry, if I have a longer sword, there's more chance of that. Honestly, there's more chance of it hitting the floor, hitting the ground. Just think, I started lower. I started lower to the ground. So if my sword starts out 5 inches lower than yours, and it's the same length, I've got more likely it's going to hang up, hit the ground. And that's a thing. So you don't want that. When I do SEA rapier, I actually have a 35-inch rapier, which is short for a rapier. Standards usually around, for rapier, for competition, most people have around a 40-inch. I don't like it. It gets hung up. It's out of balance for me. I can't move it as fast. And I've accepted a long time ago, I'm not going to win on reach, so I don't try to win on reach. Try to win on other things. This goes back to something another fencing instructor told me. We were both teaching foil classes someplace, and he was teaching his students. He said, I always teach them, parry with distance. Get out of the way. Take a step back when you parry. So that way, if you miss your parry, their attack's going to fall short. And he was about 6'5", and I said, yeah, but that doesn't work for me, because he starts out able to hit me before I can hit him, and I know that. So he's going to get the first attack if he wants it. If he attacks and I step back, I'm still out of my range. He's still in his range, which means he can continue to attack me. And none of my counters are going to reach him. So what I want to do, what you need to learn to do, what you should learn to do, if you're short, is you need to defend without giving ground or without giving much ground. Because you want them to attack you. Because when they attack you, they come close to you. And close to you is where you want them. You want to grab them by the belt buckle if you're short. You want to be close. Because once you're close, they lose their reach advantage. And if they're used to that, that's you've taken away one of their main weapons. And you never had a reach advantage, so you don't miss it. You should learn how to infight, how to fight close. And then learn how to get close. And there's lots of ways to do that. So one thing is, don't retreat as much when you parry. And you can back, you don't have to give ground, but you can back slightly by, you retract, you don't retreat. I'm going to kind of show you. So if I retreat with a parry, and it gives me more time to get out of the way. If I retract, I move my body, my front foot back, move my body back a little bit, but I keep my back foot where it was. And my lunge starts at my back foot. My back foot's here. If I'm here, my lunge is starting from the same place. It's going to go just as far. So instead of backing up my back foot where I lose everything, if I back up and I parry and then I cut, I'm going to fall short. If I retract and then I cut, I'm out here. It still gives me the space. And to my opponent, if you see me, you're going to see this. If you see this, you think I retreated, even though I didn't. My back foot's still where it was. So I don't trip over my chair. If I retreat, or if I retract, it still looks to you like I went back. Here I haven't lost any lunge. Same thing works with advance. You can do a stealth advance where you bring your back foot up to your front foot. My back foot's now here. I'm lunging from here. Instead of advancing, I'm lunging from back here, bring it all the way up. I've gained 6 inches, and it doesn't look like anything. You see my advance here. It doesn't look any different than an advance here. So it's sneaky ways to gain those extra inches. The other thing you need to do is after you've made your attack, learn to fight in your lunge. So I attack, say you parry that. Instead of coming back, attack, parry, fight in your lunge. Don't retreat back out of it. You gained that ground with your lunge. Now you're in range. Don't give it away. Don't back up. Learn to fight in your lunge. Yes, it's harder to defend in your lunge. Their weapon's going to be closer to you. But you've got a couple of advantages. First of all, if you're short, you're going to fight this way all the time. You're going to get used to it. Second, you're a smaller target. You don't have to move your weapon as far because everything's in tight, closer to you. And if you've got a weapon that's sized for you appropriately and it's balanced for you appropriately, it's going to be easy to move around quickly. So learn to do that. And understand with the mentality, they're going to get their first shot if they want it. Because they can hit you from further away than you can hit them. They may let you get close, or they may decide to attack you before you can hit them. So you have to plan on your first, on defeating their first attack, because they can take it before you can get in. So advance, if you're trying to advance on them, advance ready for them to make an attack. Wait for them to make an attack. If they make an attack, they've come close to you. If they won't attack you, because they're waiting for you to come to them, make an attack from outside of your distance. You're unlikely to hit. Make it at just the edge of your distance. But make it with the expectation that it's not going to hit and be ready for the counter parry. So don't put all your might into it and lean to the first extent of your lunge and try to squeeze that extra inch out. Make an attack that might hit them and might fall 2 inches short. They have to react to it. Unless they're so good they can tell it's going to miss them by a centimeter. If they're that good, you're in trouble anyway. When they react to that parry, when they react to that attack and they parry, and then they counter, you're expecting it. So you're not overextended, and you cut, you parry the expected counter, and then you make your attack, your real attack, because now they come close to you. So that's legitimate advice from a short person that's worked on tall people. So if you're short, fight short. If you're tall, fight tall. If you're fast, fight fast. Don't try to fight tall if you're short. If you're strong, use your strength. If you're quick, use your speed. Use what you have. Don't try to make up for it. Don't try to be where you're not. Now, you can always improve on things. You can work on getting faster. You can work on getting a longer lunge. But at 5'3", I can practice my lunge all day, and I'll get better. It'll get longer, but it's never going to be the same lunge that somebody who's 6'5" is going to get. So I shouldn't try to beat him on reach, because that's just silly. It's not going to happen. And by the same token, if I'm fighting a guy who's 300 pounds and he's a power lifter, I'm not going to try to overpower him with strength. I'm going to use speed, sneakiness, the tricks that I've learned for years. Use your brains, use your speed, use what works for you. And don't try to use artificial means to make up for areas where you're weak. Don't try to get a bigger sword. You see this in some kind of weapon choices where people say, oh, well, you know, if you're a shorter person, you should use a two-handed sword because it's longer and you have two hands on it, so it's comparatively not any heavier than a one-handed sword. Use a weapon that fits you. Use a weapon that fits your style. And learn to fight your way. In fact, I would suggest if you're shorter, instead of trying to use a two-handed sword, use a one-handed sword size properly for you and a shield, because the shield is what's going to let you cover that distance safely. It's going to help you. You're going to be able to close. They're going to get that first shot, but if you can parry it and then get in close where your speed and your smaller, nimbler weapon are going to help you, that's better than trying to outreach, taking a big weapon to outreach somebody. If you have a long sword and he's got, you know, a long sword, he still beats you. If you've got a long sword and he has a broadsword, he might even be equal to you, or at least be able to get your hands when he gets body. But if you've got a shield and a short sword, and he's got a long sword, you have a chance to get inside and do it. Everything about being a short fencer should be trying to close that gap in distance, not trying to make up for it with a two-handed sword. The same thing goes with if you're fighting people who are habitually stronger than you. Don't try to overpower them. Don't try to beat down their parries. Try to get them to commit to something and then go where they're not. So, in short, don't let somebody Tallsplain you how to fight. If you're a short person, look at how other short people succeed. And the same goes with any other. Now, if you're tall, don't take any of this advice. If you're a tall person, use your height. Absolutely use it. If you're tall and I advance on you, take a step back and attack me, because you can probably still hit me and I can't hit you. So use your strengths. And the other thing for short people, which I forgot to say, is you go for the close targets. If you can hit me, chances are I can hit your sword arm. I might not be able to hit your body. I might not be able to hit your head. But it matters in Olympic foil. That doesn't do me any good. But in HEMA Saber or in Sports Saber or in epee or other competition where the lead arm is a valid target, it works. And if you're talking about historical combat, if I can cut your sword arm, that's as good as getting hit in your body. You're done swinging that sword at me. So go for closer targets. Find ways to sneak into the edge of distance. Use your speed. Use your sneakiness. Don't try to be taller than you are. Don't try to be stronger than you are. Don't try to be different than you are. And all respect to some of the very good fencers who try to give advice because they're trying to be helpful. And they're looking at it and saying, oh, well, you know, you can still compete as a shorter fencer. Just try to do this. Look at shorter fencers and look at what they do. And if you have any questions, feel absolutely free to DM me. I'm sure I missed stuff. But, you know, don't be who you're not. And don't listen to people who tell you to try to be something that you're not. Fight with what the gifts you got. Train with them, exploit them, better them, improve them. But if you're a sneaky, quick little short guy, fight like a sneaky, quick little short guy. All right? Because you can win that way. All right? Thanks very much. If you like this kind of content, please feel free to subscribe to Ink and Bourbon. I'll try to get some more fencing videos up. Everybody seems to be a big fan of me hitting Kevin with blunt objects, so I'm going to try to do that again. And again, thanks very much. Hope to see you again.